So today's topic, how to make loops that you can use in production. Now the types of loops I'm talking about, it's drums, it's bass, it's melody loops. This is one of the quickest ways I make loops. The first way is using a MIDI application. There are quite a few MIDI applications that are out there. For example, if you're using an iPhone, you can look into stuff like piano motifs, you can look into Odesi, you can look into TONALY, you can look into Riffer. All these are applications that allows you to lay down chords or auto randomize it for you. Let's look at TONALY as a way to make great loops. Now what we're doing is just recording some sequences here. And with TONALY, you're able to export this MIDI into something else. Let's give it a listen. The next step on the list is piano motifs. Piano motifs is a sequence generator. So it generates random melodies each time you play it or you go to the next one. And you can easily just export it. Let's give this a listen now. Each MIDI that is generated is completely unique and you're able to export individual components. You can export everything together, you can export the audio, and you can even change a lot of it. It's a fantastic app that I honestly can't recommend any more than I have already. Did you miss me? Okay, something Sion forgot to mention, and I'm just filling in the blanks because, yeah, again, I'm the main dude here. Something Sion forgot to mention with we just get it the way we want it to sound and we just dump it and then we get out of there, because that's what smart guys do. Come on. Riffer is the next one on the list. With Riffer, I use it to make simple live loop structure that I can easily import. I actually did a video last year where I used Riffer to make a track from start to finish. It's a great way to break your stuff into individual components. Work with bass melodies, work with pure MIDI sounds without being distracted too much. And you just keep stacking loops until you find something that you really, really like. Once you've come up with a really, really great sequence, you can then export it. You can export the audio as well. I personally export the MIDI and I put it into Garageband. Whenever I do that, it auto assigns instruments for me and I can easily just change it up to whatever I want to do. I really do think it's a fantastic app. And you can definitely check out the Riffer CE version. It's free to use. So if you notice, I'm letting the loop record here. You want the loop to record because it's what's going to allow you to be able to easily export it. Once you've recorded it, you stop the recording and you can tap on the arrow, you can share the audio, you can share the MIDI, and you can even load previous saved states. Last one on the list is going to be Odesi. Now Odesi is amazing. It's one of those ones I recently found out about, but it comes with a lot of great features. You can select different genres of drum styles. They're actually good. You can change the BPM, you can change the type of kits, you can unlock more. Personally, I don't feel the need to unlock many sound kits because, I don't know, I'm still going to use it in GarageBand or something else, but it also allows you to program patterns for bass rhythms. You can work with basic ones, you can work with already programmed styles here. If you're not familiar with any style of music, I feel this is a really quick way to come up with great ideas, but you can even make it as complex, as simple as you want, and you can even make your own unique rhythms by recording a custom rhythm. All you're gonna do when you're recording a custom rhythm is just keep tapping the circle based on style. Like, you set the number of measures to 1 or 2 based on what you want to do, and once you've recorded that pattern, it will stay there, and whatever chords you use will be set for it. Speaking of chords, you can set chord progressions basically to whatever you want, and you can load a ton of presets that works based on the style or mood you're going for. In this case, I'm just going to select a preset that starts with A minor. I don't know, I was sort of feeling A minor during this production, so. Now if you watch, you're gonna see that this is gonna be completely changed. I can also record custom rhythm patterns for those chords that you're hearing, similar to what I did with the bass line. So yeah, it allows for a lot of customization. You can save the patterns. There's a lot of complexity in this particular application that I feel is severely underrated. And of course, you can export the project to whatever you want to export it to. You can export the audio, you can export the MIDI, and yeah.
Some of them actually generate sequences or generate melodies. In the case of piano motifs, there's some other ones out there on, like I believe Playbeat could also be considered, Chord Jam could be there. There's a lot out there. You just find the one that appeals to you and you work with it. A lot of all this random generated sequences comes up with completely unexpected ideas that if you pass it through another application, like in Garageband or in Zenbeats, you're able to get a lot of things going on there.
Alright, so we're gonna be testing out Playbeat and Riffer using Audiobus 3. So what I'm going to do in the case of Playbeat is I'm going to load it as a MIDI input because I want it to be sending the drum patterns to an application. The application is going to be Module Pro by Cog. So with this, I'm able to generate random sequences. So let's give it a listen. We can change up the sequences by adding a lot of effects. In this case, Black Hole Reverb is so good. Alright, let's change up the pattern in Riffer. Now we're going to add some drums into it. In this case, that's what Playbeat is good for. For Playbeat, I'm not going to use any AUV3 effect. I'm just going to use samples that are loaded directly in the application. You can actually work with samples on this application. Add whichever samples you have, import your samples, and use it to make interesting drum patterns. You can program them, or you can also generate them randomly. Now let's add some 808s to give it some kick. And there we go.
If you're on Android, you can look into Horrorcore as well. I believe it's also on iOS. It's another great MIDI application that is great in getting you a lot of ideas running.
Okay, I know we're going through a few more applications. Yeah, let me quickly summarize this thing before we get to the other ones. So we've got TONALY as a great application to be able to make quick loops. We've got Odesi as a way to make a full song pretty easily on your phone or on your iPad. You've got what is it again? You've got piano motifs whenever you're bored and you don't even have any idea of what you want to do and you want to come up with something random. You've got Fyro if you want to make something designed for a live loops. You've got Horuko if you're using an Android device and you need some good MIDI loops. Because yeah, for some reason Android doesn't have TONALY. I'm like, or Odesi. It's like, come on guys, give us something.
The next thing I would say is look into a Groovebox. What a Groovebox is, it's a self-contained application which is good at making a fixed amount of sequences. Examples of applications would include Ampify Groovebox. It would include Caustic. If you're on Android, it's available on Android. You can look into an application like Beatonal. You can look into an application like Reason Compact. You can look into Figure on iOS. You can look into an application like Core Gadget. Even Drambo could be considered a Groovebox here. But all these are applications that allows you to make simple loops, simple sequences. Once you're done with these ideas, you can easily just export them as an audio loop. Sometimes you can export it as a MIDI loop, but it depends on the application, and build up from there. The key thing to note is whatever loops you're making, try and know the key and the tempo, but also know the time signature as well. Usually in the applications, they usually do 4/4, but you might find some loops out there that could be in 3/4. The third way is you can actually sample them. In other words, record them from your surroundings. You could record yourself eating a pan, you can record yourself drinking coffee. These are just simple audio clips that you can use. It can give your sounds a lot more texture.
Okay, so I'm back again. You can get, if you're like me, you can get loops from all over the place, from online. You can actually transform them using applications like Koala Sampler, like Reslice, like Segments. Each of these applications have their unique parts of them. But the main goal is you take an idea and you completely transform it. You can repitch it, you can take some parts out, you can remove some parts out. There's a couple of other sampling tools that if you really want to get into sampling, we should definitely make a video. But one thing I can tell you is Let's Unmix is a brilliant app because it breaks down those audio into drums, into bass, into melody, and into other stuff. So it's just a rich world for sampling.
Now, a lot of times you can get it from online sources. There's websites for MIDI, there's websites for audio. I actually put a few of them down there in the description where you can get both free and premium audio. The main thing is just find sounds you like and use them. Similarly, you can find MIDI loops, MIDI sequences online. And I actually recommend at least looking into a few of them because it gives you a good idea of sounds you want to do. For example, if I want to make a trap beat in a style that I'm unfamiliar with, I do some research. I listen to some songs. I try and replicate the way the drum is. I download MIDI, I download audio loops just to get a good feel of it. Sometimes if I feel like I want to make the drums hit a particular way, I changed some of the samples of the MIDI, and that's one of the ways to actually be able to make your own creative loops.
Now, beware of copyright. Yeah, that may not have screwed me over in the past, but beware of copyright. Whatever samples you're using, if you're using it for public work, you gotta make sure that they're cleared, else you'll be surprised. You end up making such a big hit, and all of a sudden 90% gets tossed to someone because they forgot to clear the sample. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Ariana. Call me.
Now, before we get into this whole spill of copyright, because I'm sure this is going to come up down there in the comments, what I would say, or what I would personally recommend is, whatever you're creating, if it's for personal use, know the intent of it. It's for personal use. If you're trying to make something a bit more commercial, I'd say try and replicate, or try and remake what inspires you. Because when you remake something, you wouldn't make it the exact way. Your drums will be different, your sounds will be different. The way you play some of the MIDI will be different. And then that will be your own unique take on it. I'd say try and replicate the work as much as you can. If you absolutely do need to use that sample, I recommend trying to get it cleared. There's some different agencies we actually specialize in this. I don't have a full list of it because usually for that route, I just recreate the sound from scratch. It takes a bit more time, but for the sake of peace of mind, that's usually the best way.
There are so many apps out there that can do the same thing that I possibly can't cover all of them. If I cover all of them, it ruins the chance of you discovering something new. And I'm sure some developer is just going to invent something there. I heard there was something called Riffer. Yeah, again, there's so many apps that come out that it's hard to keep up on all of them. And I don't necessarily need to keep up with all of them. I only need to find the ones that work well for my workflow. Again, this is DB Show. So you might have a different workflow, but whichever ones I use is the ones I use. All right?
So I'll see you in the next video. I'll also leave a few links in the description to things to the apps I recommend and other stuff there. So if you want to learn more, feel free to hit the like and subscribe button. And I'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.
Okay, what were we talking about?